The problem is you can make the infrastructure projects more expensive, and at the same time you really threaten not only the jobs of all the people who are in the export business. As I said, we've got more export jobs than we have steel jobs in Missouri. But beyond that, we depend upon the farm economy. We saw with the Asian crisis, the Asian contagion, when the exports of farm goods dropped off, we had a recession, almost a depression.
Yeah, Senator, this is Melissa Francis. I heard an ad this morning for somebody who started a company wanting to help you modify your mortgage. There are a lot of entrepreneurs out there looking to make money. Is it time for the government to make a plan, make a decision, or just get out of the way?
I think the government's going to have to do something to take the toxic assets off the books. That's what they told us the first TARP was going to be. Instead, it turned out to be an exercise in adhocracy. Whatever they felt like one day they spent money on, they still have not taken the toxic assets off the market. We're in the same position that Japan was, which had 10 years of stagnation. They kept spending money and didn't deal with the real problems, which is the credit market.
Senator Bond, Wall Street got us into this mess, and now we want Wall Street and the banks to open up their lending and help us get out of this mess. But President Obama says now is no time for profits on Wall Street. Is Washington in danger of hurting the very Wall Street that we need to help us come back?
The worst thing we can do is tell businesses how to run themselves. Congress has a pretty bad track record. If you look at our collective judgment, all 535 of us in our wisdom here in our little palace in Washington can't run government very well. We sure can't run business. As far as capping CEO pay for people who've really loused up, we ought to fire them. They ought to. We're not going to fire them, but the boards of directors ought to fire them. That's what they did in Sweden. They need to get rid of these people, not cap their pay at $400,000. They aren't worth that. Let's bring in people who can do the job.
Senator Bond, Steve Leisman, I just have a question for you. The Republicans seem to be asking the president to basically go back on his plans or campaign speech when it came to the taxes. You want the Bush tax cuts to be permanent, and it seems like there's almost no way the president will agree to that. So aren't you setting up for not passing this bill at all, if that's a condition for Republican support on the first hand? And secondly, aren't you also guaranteeing permanent deficits down the road if you say permanent tax cuts?
Well, I think permanent tax cuts, such as we adopted in 2003, really stimulated the economy. You take a look at the 8 million jobs that were created. But they
doubled the deficit, sir. The
government deficit is being run up by the bad economy and by a $1 trillion spending bill. We don't need to spend $1 trillion. We need to spend some money on stimulus and spend some money that will put people to work building the roads, bridges, other things that are shovel-ready. But we need to take the bad assets off the books so the market can start operating again. And I think over the long run, keeping a reasonable level of taxation is essential, and giving some certainty to individuals, entrepreneurs, and families to make sure we get their incentives right.
You talked about Congress running businesses. How do you feel about Senator Chuck Grassley sending a letter to Microsoft saying, if you're going to fire workers, make sure it's the foreign workers first?
I think that's a little bit of an overreach. We want to see as many jobs as possible in America, but we know that there are many, many jobs. My small hometown, Mexico, Missouri, has a lot of people employed by an Israeli company, pharmaceutical company, Teva. And do we say we don't want the foreign companies coming into the United States and hiring workers?
Or if Israel told them to fire their American workers first before they fired their Israeli workers, it would be problematic here.
That would hurt us very badly.
Senator, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
See how this gets going just 2 hours from now.
Exactly. Thank you for being with us, sir. We'll continue our special coverage here of Washington to Wall Street. President Obama expected to unveil his plan. You were mentioning that, Steve. The Treasury will have its plan out next week on ways to stimulate the economy. We're going to find out what may be in that plan and what will work and what won't. We'll talk about it all coming up here.